Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mindful Living podcast with your host Sana. Now, if you are here because life has been loud and your inner world, it feels like that it's running on a low battery. Listener, you are in the right room because today we are unpacking something that is honestly not just a concept, but it is, trust me, a survival skill. Mindful resilience. Not the fake positivity, not the grind till you break, real resilience. The kind you build when your body is done pretending and your mind it refuses to keep performing. Listeners, my guest today has lived that journey in a very literal way. He is the founder of ConsciRise, a community of vetted holistic practitioners who actually walk their talk around authenticity, healing, and integrity. Before this chapter, he spent years as vice president of inclusive excellence and a graduate professor doing all the high impact, high pressure work. Well, on paper, it definitely looked like success, but in his body, it felt like burnout and breakdown. In the middle of the collapse, he did something most of us would never even consider. He embarked on a 24-day water fast, and that experience not only restored his health, it cracked open his understanding of trust, consciousness, and what it means to exactly rebuild a life. Along the way, he also met people who tried to exploit that vulnerability, which actually became the catalyst for building ConsciRise, a space for healing which is protected, curated, and also real. He has a PhD in theory and social foundations. His work spans psychometric instrument design, behavioral analysis, and even legal and jury outcome prediction models. On top of that, he has explored consciousness through hypnosis based regression sessions, which reshaped how he sees identity and the continuity of life. So, listeners, not the typical vibes that we are going to take from this episode. We are going to talk the intersection of science, spirit, and strategy. How do you move through disruption? How do you rebuild after everything falls down apart? And how do you lead consciously in a world that is moving ultra fast and not always very kind? Listeners, meet my incredible guest, Dr. Jonathan Locust. So, Dr. Jonathan, welcome to the Mindful Living. And as always, I'm really honored.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, thank you for all you do to create spaces where people can be able to grow. So thank you for your work.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jonathan. And that really means a lot. And I'm really excited to dive into this because, not only we are going to dive deep through your journey, of course, but then also, um, you know, we always want deep down something which is grounded, doable, and also practical. To begin with, Dr. Jonathan, let's try to understand or define mindful resilience here. Now, you talk about progressing through difficulty instead of pretending that it is not there. Kind of the younger generation would call delulu, or we are in the delusion and all that. But when you hear this phrase, mindful resilience, what does it actually mean to you in real life? Big question, but
That,
uh-huh.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. And for me, when I think about, let's say, resilience, I think about particular concepts. And when I think about like what is resilience, I think about aspects of being balanced. I think it's about self-confidence. I think it's about adaptability, a connection, but also having empathy, self-control. And I believe these become like the aspects of what resilience is. So
Mm.
if as you're going through these because these different and I draw the difference between, a lot of times it's good to define something by comparing it to another word. So I think about the difference between resilience and grit, right?
Hmm.
And there's a difference between the two because what resilience allows a point of stepping back,
Hmm.
looking to then see strategically, what did I just do? What are things that I can change? Adaptability. So I think that the difference between when you talk about resilience and grit, resilience is something that allows people to continue on when things get hard because there's a continuous strategy to progress. And when you add kind of that mindfulness piece to it. I look at it as how can I allow my mind to be able to uh, continue on, to be able to function at its best, and to be able to think in positive ways, regardless of the things that are happening around me.
Hmm. Well, what I sense is, Dr. Jonathan, is, because especially around resilience, many people would assess this, as this innate ability to weather everything without even, questioning, or without even understanding what is causing this, what are the repercussions here, or why this is all happening, just blindly weathering all the difficulties and challenges. But then what I understand is, um, it is definitely accepting and facing those challenges, but then also learning from those challenges to strategize, to be more mindful in terms of how I can better approach these situations.
100%. That's correct. And the reason I would say that the topic comes on hand, you talked about like creating psychometric instruments. And one of the things that I did before ConsciRise is I created a company called the Growth Resiliency Measure. And it measured resilience in basically students from sixth grade all the way up to seniors in high school. And we essentially were able to break resilience down in different components and to then see how those specific components then either fluctuated, increased, or decreased to see what specific components of resilience needed more attention. Um, so exactly what you're saying is correct. Is there is a strategy, and when you found even with children about children who were resilient, and I'm talking about not only children being resilient with grades, but some of the students we were dealing with, uh, they were going to school, and their parents may have just went to jail the previous evening. I mean, very, very poor, areas, very, very, like, going through difficult situations, but the things that we found when it came to resilience was there would be time and where the student would actually just sit, think, whether you call it meditate, whether you call it contemplation, but there will be a period where they would do that and then strategize. And then that contemplation provided hope and faith to be able to continue on.
Hmm. That absolutely makes sense. Absolutely makes sense, Dr. Jonathan. Um, and if we strip away the academic and the spiritual, kind of um, lingo here for a second, how would you explain mindful resilience to someone, who is already kind of at the brink of, let's say, burnout or a breakdown, exhausted, you know, does not feel anything at all, spiritual or high performing at all?
Mm. Yeah, I would say kind of how I would define that is really a way to be able to protect yourself and keep going. And I think it's that. And as far as definition, it's that simple. And for the folks, because I've been there before. Like you shared a little bit of my story at the beginning. So for anyone who's listening who do feel at the brink, I'm not just talking about things that I've read in a book, Like I'm talking about things that I've actually experienced, things where I've been told that if I try to have another child, my child is more than likely to be disabled or to be deformed because of my health issue, and I would have to be on medicine for the rest of my life. And me and my wife have to talk about that. Like, so I know what it's like to be at the bottom, to where you feel as though there is no place to go. But there is a place to go, because where you're at the bottom, you can always go up. You can always go up. And a lot of the times what it finds is, which I think it also is important, is when you talk about mindful resilience, what are the things that you are surrounding yourself with? Who are the people? What are you reading? What is the music you're listening to? What are you watching? What is your mind consuming?
Mm.
And then that plays a huge part in the resilience. So when I talk about like my healing journey, and when like what I said was, not only am I going to be resilient, but I'm going to cut out a lot of things that are not positive contributors to my mindfulness. So I stopped hanging around certain people. I stopped watching certain things. I really just kind of and I started consistently listening to things that could be able to help my mindfulness. So I think when we're also talking about that, we talk about, like, what are some very first practical steps that I can make? Well, you can start just doing an evaluation on, what am I reading? What am I listening to? Who am I hanging around? What am I watching? What are the things that are influencing me on a regular basis? And then as you look at those, does that have a positive increase or negative, or negative? And then from there, start to make adjustments.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly why it is mindful, because it's kind of an assessment that we are trying to do. Whether writing down what we are doing, whom we are hanging out with, what we are listening, what we are consuming, what we are eating, and everything. But also, Dr. Jonathan, one question that really comes in my mind, often, when, okay, good that we realize, okay, I'm maybe at the brink of a breakdown or a burnout, or something is not right. I'm not feeling right, but I am ready to make things right. But then, you know, that particular, it's kind of, a not a double-edged sword. It's kind of a very slippery slope, because sometimes our mind, our brain, it tries to protect us, because we often get into this loop of anxiety and this fear that maybe I'm going to once again go back to my old habits, or go back to those old my old self, instead of getting into this new self. Maybe all of these things are too much overwhelming for me. So what was the single thing that kind of made you kept going on that path? Because sometimes it's really very natural that we kind of once again go back to our old self.
Yes, yes. No, no, that's a good question. So for me, it
Mhm.
was not only did I know that I needed to change, but I also know that I needed to change. I had responsibilities,
Mhm.
so there were also people. Not only did I need to change for myself, but there were also people that I needed to make a change for. And
Mhm.
that then was a motivation for me. My son, my wife. I also had, like, people. I had students, so I was over a pretty large division, so I had students and faculty and staff who are depending on me. So for me, since I did have responsibilities, that was a motivator. But I would also say that, and if a person has been there, or if they're there, they know what I'm talking about, to where you just know that I can't go back. Even and that does not mean, and I want to be clear, that does not mean we do not give ourselves grace, right? Because in this process, we have to give ourselves grace because as we walk, as we go 10 steps forward, we may sometimes regress 2 steps back, but we're still up 8 steps. And I think that is the context, the framework to keep things in. It's not to say we're gonna go 100 steps straight. No, 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 no. That we may go 10, go back 2, go up 12, go back 2, go up 14, go back 2, go up 20. So it's a process, but I think along there, as we are on the pathways of becoming who we are and who we're supposed to be, we have to know and allow ourselves grace that we may slip up sometimes, but that does not mean we are not at a net positive gain.
I really love that answer, Dr. Jonathan, because this is human. This is what exactly, like it's not that straight away common fluff that we see around. Okay, I did this, it all changed immediately. No, it takes its own time. And as beautifully you said that, we may take 10 steps, but then 2 steps back, but still at the end of the day, we have taken 8 steps forward. And just maybe pat your back, take it as a small win. And I think it's more about small steps, but consistent steps.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that exactly is resilience, right? Like mindful resilience.
Yeah, yeah, no, I really do. I believe that that is it. And again, this is not only from what my experiences are, but from even from what I've seen as far as even formerly having a company that measured resilience. Uh, but I think the one thing that I'll just also add is um that you know as things for us do get hard and difficult, I think another thing to keep in the larger scheme of things is that what we're going through is a part of a learning, a lesson, and something that's going to really essentially take us to the next level. And I want people to think about that at these times when they have felt the most growth, not when they've probably seen it, but when they've really felt the most growth, was it easy? And a lot of times when what you find is growth is not easy. You even talking about people who work out on a regular. I work out pretty much every day. And it's pretty much when I work out, it's not that I want to work out. I work out. It's not that I really I always want to work out, but I do it because I not only is it challenging, but it is hard. It is really, really hard. If I'm going to do 150, 200 push-ups in a workout, that's hard. But it allows growth, right? So as we are going through these different things, I want people to understand that not only are we learning, but we're growing. And a lot of times learning and growth are not the most comfortable as we're going through that process.
That's gold. That's gold, listeners. Ah, super. Um, and before we wrap up, I think this is such an important question, because you have this very interesting combo on your CV, like PhD in theory and social foundations, then your work in psychometric instruments, behavioral analysis, and then there is hypnosis based regression, consciousness, and now you're also leading the ConsciRise community. Now, normally these are different categories, but you lift them together, Dr. Jonathan. So, how does your analytical, data informed brain actually shape the way you approach spiritual or energetic healing?
Yes, yes. Wow, that's a really good question. So I would say that but because I am pretty analytical, I do tend to, try to see. I measure things against each other, and then to see what are similarities, what are patterns, and what actually kind of just makes sense. I also go with intuition and to be able to see what makes sense. So I believe that that becomes really helpful. I believe also there can be times to where it could be used to an extreme, and I want to be transparent, and I want to be honest because, uh, and like so one of the things that I was doing that I found out that I'm no longer doing anymore. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I think I took it too far. But one of the things I was doing was, um, I was essentially assigning um, a score or grade to my meditations. So I would wake up, I would kinda say, "Okay, yeah, this meditation was good, my focus was pretty good," and which again, kinda in theory sounds like a good idea, but me always wanting to be more super analytical, what I found in meditation for me was opposed to trying to be present in the moment, it was trying to recreate an experience that wasn't associated with the higher score.
Wow. That's a really very good example, yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Jonathan.
So I just share that as, it can be used kinda as an extreme, but I'm a person, I'm growing, I'm growing, just like everyone here is growing. So I do tend to approach things with and my whole thing is I try to find out, like, what is truth? What is truth? What feels true to me? What has been truth that other cultures has said is truth, and what are the alignments, And that's kinda how I've looked at how I've been able to what I call kind of synthesize
Mm.
the analytical with the conscious with the spiritual with not only being able to evaluate but also with the research I'm do I'm an experimental researcher. So if I'm going to read about hypnosis, I'm going to go get hypnosis and experience it for myself to be able to talk about it. So those would be how I've been kind of been able to bring the three together.
No, I think this actually, kind of, it disrupts this huge misconception, especially, when anyone starts to talk about spiritual or energetic healing, that, all of this is woo-woo. It doesn't work. I think definitely there are examples or experiences which serve as a kind of a proof that maybe it doesn't work for everyone in common, but then it doesn't also mean that it doesn't work, like it's woo woo. That's not something I would also personally disagree. um and before we wrap up, Dr. Jonathan. So it's as a ritual on all of our podcasts. So of course, listeners will be so much eager to connect with you. And also, I think what you're doing at ConsciRise, the vision, the purpose is absolutely, I think we really see it out there because people who may be in the healing phase or kind of they are at a low energy, sometimes there are bad elements and actors out there who are very much keen to take advantage of that. So of course, personally I really appreciate what ConsciRise is doing out there, what you are doing out there. So if our listeners, they would like to explore more, connect with you, what would be the best way?
Yeah, thank you for that. You can follow me on Instagram at JLOCUSTJR. That's J Locust Jr. You can find me on LinkedIn, add me on LinkedIn. Join our community on ConsciRise. I mean, we have a free community. We have cool events that are happening all year round. We're starting which I'm excited about. We're starting a monthly fasting experience. So we're going to fast pretty much at the end of every month where you can fast from whatever you want to fast from, you can fast from. So we have a number of really cool experiences that we'll be having. And then we just started our membership. So your listeners are interested in more of a structured type base, we have some subscriptions going all the way down. There's almost like $20 a month where you can meet with practitioners, and to be able to have sound and music therapy to really get a combination in a more structured fashion. So, um, join us. We are at ConsciRise, ConsciRise.com. Join our community and, um, yeah, engage. I mean, I love talking about these things. So please don't hesitate to follow me, shoot me a message, and I will respond back.
Wonderful, wonderful. Especially I'm very because the sound and the music or the vibration, I think these are some of the most beautiful therapeutic or healing practices that personally I would also definitely connect with, and I urge all of our listeners to definitely check out ConsciRise community, because healing, to me, listeners, it happens best when it's done collectively and in community. So please go and check out. And to make that easier for all of you, I'm going to have all the links in the show notes. So just refer to them along with this episode. And today, I think we hit some really, really big themes through Dr. Jonathan's journey. Burnout that does not care about your title, healing experiences that can be both transformative and risky, healers who help, healers who harm, science and spirit sharing the room beautifully, and the question of whether your resilience is actually self honoring you or just self abandonment with prettier language. And also, listeners, I hope that what you are taking away is mindful resilience is not about being unbreakable. It's about being honest. Honest about how your body is doing, honest about who you trust with your vulnerability, and honest about when it is time to rest, when it is time to rise again. So, Dr. Jonathan, thank you once again so much. Really love your energy, the vigor here, and the passion. So, thank you so much.
It's my absolute pleasure. Again, thank you for all the work you are doing in providing these spaces and asking such brilliant questions for me to even to be able to share my experience and converse. So thank you for your beautiful energy and all you're doing to contribute.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jonathan, once again. And listeners, if this episode landed for you, share it with one person you know is quietly burning out behind a brave face. And if you think that this conversation and whatever we are sharing through our podcast is something valuable to you, uh, show your love, subscribe to us, leave us a review, let us know what you connected with or what you didn't connect with. And also, thank you so much to all the beautiful listeners out there for tuning into this episode of The Mindful Living. Take a breath, drink some water, and remember you are allowed to build a life that your nervous system can actually live in. This is your host, Sana, signing off.